So guys, crappy transition's over. Hi, it's time for Pig's Point of View. Week 2, episode number 2, Terran vs Zerg and Zerg vs Terran. Hope you guys all had a good week. We did just have a storm here. Hopefully it doesn't come back or my computer might explode mid-show. Basically what we're going to be looking at is another bunch of replays. I've revised the format a little bit because last time it did go for almost over 2 entire hours. So this week I'm thinking 3 replays we'll focus on. We'll start with a low level one. There are actually none from the Grandmaster Manual this time. So I'm thinking I'll set up an email, or I'll put out my email to accept replays from lower level players in the future, and mid-level as well. So we'll be starting out with a silver replay. We'll go into a diamond Zerg vs Terran as well. And then we'll finish up with a pro replay, courtesy of Iagaz from the Korean server. Yeah, with a big Korean name in there. So, also, I will be coming up with potential name changes for the show today. There's been quite a few listed. You guys might have seen the overlay I had. I mean, that was just a bit of a little cheerful kind of that Dell made. So yeah, I don't think the Pig Hat Variety Hour will be the name, but I'll let you guys kind of help me decide in chat in a short while. I will actually just hop onto Skype. I'll see if I can grab someone really quickly to kind of vet the chat and find any questions for me. Henry, if you're watching, could you do that? As I said, I was a little bit unprepared today. There was a storm, I had to turn my computer off briefly. Storm passed over. But yeah, I'll just be hopping out to the chat in between the games. Let's just jump straight into it. Okay, so we've got a replay from Welshie. And I think we'll start off focusing from the Zerg side. We'll probably focus each replay, one from each player's side, maybe focus on the Terran a bit as well as the Zerg. Obviously, Zerg is my main race, as many of you know. So let's jump straight into that replay now. Alright, here we go. So, we've basically got Welshie, the red Zerg, starting down here in the bottom left. And we've got our blue player, Eric Song, the blue Terran, over in the bottom right. And what we're going to be trying to look for today, I have my notepad, as I always have. As you can see in the little corner of your screen, the webcam should still be on me. I'm going to take down notes, and this is what I do every time I'm looking at replays, whether I'm coaching, whatever the purpose is. I like to take down little notes and points, and I like to really examine the replays and think about them. So, first of all, let's start off with the same way we looked at the replays last week. Let's take a look at it, fast forward, go through it really quick, and get a general idea for what happens, and then go back and deconstruct the reasons why, and what these players can both improve on, especially focusing on what Welshie can improve on as the Zerg player. So, this is a Silver League game, so we are going to see a lot of basic mechanical things, but even if you're a high level player, you will be able to get something out of this in terms of just watching the way I analyze the replay and the little things I pick apart, which, if you're not picking them apart in your own play, there's mistakes you're making which you're not picking up on, things which you could be improving on better. So, let's fast forward through this. We've got Welshie scouts cross map. We've got the blue player actually scouts close ground, which is, of course, a position on this map where you can't spawn. You can only spawn either horizontal or kind of diagonal spawns. We do see really nice handling of this bunker with those drones, but the Marine's gonna hop in. So we see Welshie taking a lot of damage, being forced into 2 spines, a bunch of Zerglings, just for a Marine and a cancelled bunker or a salvage bunker. Doesn't cost very much at all. So already, I guess what we're going to focus on when we go back over this, maybe how he could have handled that a little bit nicer. Spine's kind of denying some Hellion harass. See the Terran kind of really slow to expand a little bit. Sending it down now. Using the Hellions for a bit of map control. Looks like those Lings cleaned up their Hellions. It's kind of evolving into a Macri, and this is actually a 28-minute replay, so definitely want to be watching quite a few bits of this on fast forward, so we don't take too long. So we've got some engages we're going to need to examine, off-creep engages, and I think that's going to be a big thing we're actually talking about is creep today, because creep spread is something, if you've watched my stream at all when I'm laddering, I can get into the worst position against a Terran. And what I'll always say to myself is, you know what, as long as I've got creep spread, I think I'll be okay. Because it just makes such a big difference with how your engagements go. And you know what, I'm going to have to turn the game noise down a little bit so that you guys can hear what I'm saying. It doesn't kind of completely override it. There we go. So I'm just going to hop out, see if someone can find questions for me in the chat. Someone who has my Skype contact, preferably. I will see if Welshie could do that, and even ask some questions of his own, I suppose. So Welshie, would you be able to kind of look through the chat for any great questions, anything which you feel should be answered, and what's that? As it will be very time-consuming for me to constantly hop back on the chat, try to figure out exactly what everyone's saying. That being said, hey, Steve's on the stream as well. Maybe Steve could do the same thing he did last week as well. Which was find questions. That would be really epic, guys. Either of you get back to me. So anyway, back to the replay. Fast forwarding through it. Okay, Terran kills an expansion. Zerg stuck on 2 base at 15 minutes into the game. Nice saturation levels, like not way oversaturated or anything. You know, a little under at the main, slightly over at the natural. Really good for silver level though. Obviously we'll see a good kind of understanding of that. What's the Terran got? The Terran's got a lot of production, so I like the macro in this game. Yeah, definitely. It's not like these guys are at all clueless about how the game is meant to be played. We've got, you know, pretty good stuff, but there are a lot of missed injects. There is a lot of production not being used all the time, you know. So there's too much production for this stage of the game. Some of these things we're definitely going to come back on, pick up on these, and focus on them in a bit more detail, and try to figure out exactly how you can apply some sort of general rules to your own play. And here's something that I do, where when you load up a medevac, you tell your whole army to just go on it. The closest 8 Marines get in, and then the rest of your army just keeps following the dropship while it flies away. That's actually really funny when that happens. So there's a few kind of strange engages. The creep spread's pretty good, but it's you know, it's not that far out. And this is something we see in the lower leagues quite a bit. The drones never really get much past 50 supply. So there is always kind of limitations on the macro involved, and there's always these banks which just build up in the late game to these really high numbers. And oh, all those Mulisks dying. So okay. Looks like this push is going to be the Doom push, but nice flank, and somehow Welshie's still alive, but he's going to lose all his bases. But this is kind of an interesting game we're going to have here, where there's going to be a lot of back and forth and a lot of opportunities for either side to take advantage. And even when you're looking at a pro game where the game is really back and forwards, there's always this time where you watch the replay and you think even a slight change in how this went would actually have completely changed the game. You know, it could have, I could have won it there, he could have won it there. The thing is, what we're going to have to look at is we're going to have to be like, more important is the basic things that got into these bad positions in the first place. I mean, when you're looking at, especially storming up again, try to close my window, hopefully the rain doesn't sound too noisy. Basically, when you're below diamond level, below, especially gold, bronze and silver especially, the main problem is mechanics. We see these resources unable to be getting spent. The base count staying very low. Simple ideas such as too much production for only 2 base. So there's a lot of simple rules we can apply to the play, rather than looking at specific strategic or tactical situations. And there is also, of course, micro, which is something which I think I might have to do an episode especially on micro one day. I've been coaching a lot of people in how to micro recently. So, hopping out briefly. Steve will be able to find me questions, so will Henry. Awesome, thanks a lot, guys. And I will bring those up whenever you guys do post those to me. Alright, so looking at this replay back from the start, let's break it down and let's look at what Welshie could have done differently to win this game. Now, I could kind of throw a lot of concepts out there. I could say ZVT is all about drone timings, or it's all about defending drops, but these sort of generalizations, I think, are something which don't really help us in our understanding of the matchup. I think what we really want to be focusing on is the raw mechanics and the dynamic of how each side should be building their resources, their income and such. So, first of all, we are starting out with, I believe, a 14 hatch. It's a 14 hatch, and we are seeing that Welshie's actually at 350 minerals when he puts that down, so he could have thrown that a little bit earlier. I'll bring up the production tab. See now drone production starting up behind it. Still got another drone sitting there, and this build is what we're going to be analysing initially. So we've got a 14 hatch into a 14 gas, followed by a 15 pull. So what this build allows Welshie to do is to get a very, very fast zergling speed. The problem is you are cutting economy to get that out. So you want to be getting that zergling speed the moment you get it, and even then, do you really need it that fast? Not particularly. Especially if, as we saw, Welshie ended up using spine crawlers rather than zerglings to defend. So I don't think this is a very efficient build. 14, 14, 15. 14 hatch, 14 gas, 15 pull. You want to be doing something really stable. I like the hatch first from Welshie. If you're a lower league player and you're wondering what build do you want to do in ZBT, hatch first is always the way to go. The problem is you don't need this gas this early. You can go 15 hatch, 15 pull, or 14 hatch, 14 pull. Then you can take the gas around 18, 19, 20 supply. Because often, especially with lower league players, when I see them do this build, they forget to upgrade the ling speed. So let's take a look, fast forward a little bit. Now, he did have this Overlord in position. Let's look at this, sorry. Okay, over 100 gas. If you're taking gas this early, you need to pull off your gas after 100 because you are starving your economy. Look at how few workers there are mining here. Hasn't even started queen production yet. Starting spine crawlers now. 200 gas. And Welshie has absolutely zero usage for this gas. So I'm gonna choose to think that Welshie normally likes to pull off gas after that 100, understands there's no other use for that immediately, it's better to get more minerals out. But let's look at what happened. Why did Welshie stop doing that? He obviously got distracted by the bunker down at the natural. So this is a common scenario. A Terran opponent building this bunker behind your mineral line, and obviously you can't really see it unless you've got an Overlord sitting over your natural. So this is your general rule. Your Overlord wants to sit over your natural always, and you want it to be centered directly over the hatchery. Because let's take a look at this vision. We've got vision here, we've got a dark patch there. Luckily you can't fit a bunker without the Overlord seeing it, but what about down here? A bunker could fit there, Welshie would have no idea about it. And that's why you keep the Overlord directly over the hatchery. Such a simple thing, but you'd be surprised at the number of high-level players who actually just completely forget about that. So basically leaving that there, and then always bringing a drone down when you see an SCV come into your natural, because this is what they're going to be doing. So let's pause it there. He's come in, he's placed this down. He's been building it for 8 seconds now. No reaction yet from Welshie. Because let's face it, we're not all super fast, we're not all Korean players, we don't all train 8 hours a day. But what we can do is always be prepared for these sort of common things. And this bunker behind the mineral line, this is what every Terran player is doing at every level of the game at the moment. So you always want to bring down one drone, and if you've got one drone whacking this SCV the entire time it's building, it's not going to finish. But you know what we see instead? We're going to see Welshie pull 3 drones, because it's already almost halfway built. And despite pulling 3 drones and losing all this mining time, the bunker actually finishes. So what you actually want to do there is you want to have your drone down ahead of time. You don't want to let the bunker build. Now if it does build, you want to basically use your knowledge of what they're doing in order to react. So if he's going 2 barracks, he's got a bunker up, you cannot let him get in that bunker. You have to pull so many drones down, pull 8 drones down, something. You need to kill the Marines before they get in there. You need to get Lings up, because he's going to be streaming Marines in. It's hard enough to hold that. With the help of a bunker, it's nearly impossible. But let's take a look at Welshie's scouting information. He's sent a drone in earlier, he's seen the barracks, he's seen the depot wall off, and he's seen the gas. Now if a Terran opponent goes a gas, there's no way they can have a 2 racks. You simply know the most common build they're going to be doing is Reactor Hellions. So that's what we see here, the Reactor building on the barracks, the factory to swap over. Really, really simple transition. Now, what do we know from the fact that they're doing this? They're using the barracks to build a reactor, or some sort of other tech. It could still be building Marines, but there's definitely no second barracks. So how many Marines do we see?